Hello everyone, this is Dr. Shishma Sarila, consulting homeopath at Fidelis Homeopathy. Today we are going to discuss in the fibroid series, we are going to discuss about hysterectomy. So, what is hysterectomy? What are the investigations that are needed before doing a hysterectomy? What are the different procedures in hysterectomy? How efficient is hysterectomy in treating fibroids? And also, what are the benefits of hysterectomy and what are the risks of hysterectomy? And which is the best treatment option for fibroids? So, let's dive into the topic. What is hysterectomy? As you can here see in the picture, hysterectomy means surgically removing the uterus. So the blue part, whatever you're seeing, is the uterine part and they're removing that part. See, depends that if you want to remove the uterus, you can remove only the uterus. But if there is any other condition along with the fibroids, you can remove the fallopian tubes, you can remove the ovaries, you can remove the cervix. So removal of the fallopian tubes is called as salpingectomy. Removal of ovaries is called as oophorectomy, and complete removal of the cervix along with the uterus is called as total hysterectomy. It depends upon the case condition what sort of procedure needs to be done. So this is hysterectomy. As we are now discussing about hysterectomy, now let us discuss about the conditions that are favorable or point towards hysterectomy. The first and foremost one is inability to preserve fertility. If you're someone who doesn't want any more kids, or if you're someone who is not wanting to get pregnant, and if you're having these fibroids, you can get a hysterectomy done. Second one, failure of other treatments. See, here we are not talking about hysterectomy in relation to cancers or endometrial cancer or adenomyosis or endometriosis. We are just talking about fibroids and hysterectomy in operating or in treating the fibroids. So if you want to hear about hysterectomy in other conditions, or what are the other conditions that will prompt for, or what are the other conditions that will pave in path for hysterectomy, we are going to do in future. So today we are just going to deal about fibroids. The second one is failure of other treatments in fibroids. Like we have already done a video on UAE, we have done a video on myomectomy, we have done a video on hormonal therapy. If all of these are not able to treat the fibroids, then the last and final option would be hysterectomy. Then the large and multiple fibroids. If you're having larger fibroids, if you're having multiple fibroids, especially submucosal fibroids, then UAE, hormonal therapy or myomectomy might not be the proper procedure to treat it, and hysterectomy would be. Next is specific location of the fibroid. As I've already mentioned, submucosal fibroids call out for hysterectomy. So what is a submucosal fibroid? What are intramural fibroids? What are subperitoneal fibroids or subserosal fibroids? All of these conditions are already discussed in our videos. We will be providing you with the link in the description box so you can get to know about fibroids in detail. Next, especially submucosal fibroid which is inside the uterine cavity, call out for hysterectomy. And if you're having anemia because of this fibroid symptoms, and also if your quality of life has decreased because of the fibroid symptoms, you can opt for hysterectomy. Next, what are the conditions of fibroids that call out for hysterectomy? First and foremost one is heavy or prolonged bleeding. If you're someone who's suffering from fibroids, if you're someone who has long periods, or if you're someone who has a lot of flow even if it is very short duration, if you're someone who's suffering from periods every 10 or 15 days, so his gynecologist would suggest you for hysterectomy. Apart from that, if you're having dysmenorrhea, which is painful menstruation, if you're having bearing down sensation, as if something is pulling, someone is pulling down the organs, if you're having that kind of dragging kind of bearing kind of sensation, if you're having chronic pelvic pain, if you're having bloating, if it is causing pressure symptoms or by falling on the urinary bladder causing painful urination, or if it is causing urge incontinence, which is you want to go to the washroom even if you're having one drop of urine in your urinary bladder, which is called as urge incontinence. If it is causing pressure symptoms on the rectum, it can cause constipation or it can cause painful defecation, that is painful evacuation of the bowels. All of these symptoms can pave a path for hysterectomy. As we are now discussing about hysterectomy, let us discuss about the contraindications of hysterectomy, as we have already discussed the conditions before. If you're someone who is suffering from fibroids, and if you're having very large uterus because of a very large fibroid, then it might be a contraindication for vaginal hysterectomy, but an abdominal hysterectomy can be performed. Second one, prior pelvic surgeries. If you're having prior pelvic surgeries, then abdominal hysterectomy might not be a call for it. Second one, suspected severe pelvic adhesions. If you're someone who's suffering from adhesion, which means it is just like, if you're having infection after a surgery or because of any sort of conditions, you can see that all the organs are plastered together inside the body. So that is called as an adhesion. If you're someone who's suffering from that, then abdominal hysterectomy might be really tough to perform. If you're someone who's suffering from uterine malignancy, cervical malignancy, or endometrial malignancy, or ovarian malignancy, then just not hysterectomy, then bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy should be performed depending upon the condition. And then lack of uterine descent and morbid obesity. What do you mean by morbid obesity? If someone who is too obese, then abdominal hysterectomy might be tough to perform. Apart from that, if there is no lack of uterine descent, if the uterus is not contracting properly, if it is not moving properly, then vaginal hysterectomy is very hard to perform. And then if you're having pelvic radiation prior to hysterectomy because of any sort of other malignancies, because your organs are already fragile, it will be hard to perform abdominal hysterectomy. Apart from pelvic radiation, if you're having any sort of advanced malignancies also, you might have to remove the whole set of a female reproductive organ in order to preserve the body. So these are some of the contraindications for hysterectomy to be performed. Coming to the tests that are needed for hysterectomy, or tests that have to be performed before hysterectomy to be done. First and foremost is physical examination. It is very important that you consult a doctor before hysterectomy for your physical examination to get done. That is checking your pallor, palpating your abdomen. All of this will come under physical examination. Taking a medical history of your existing disorders. It can be thyroid, it can be coagulation disorientation or coagulation disorders. It can be your spike in blood pressure, which is hypertension, or it can be hypotension. It can be diabetes, it can be obesity. All of this will come under your medical history conditions. Now coming to the pelvic examination. See, pelvic examination is performed by a doctor where they will be wearing gloves and they can do bimanual examination depending upon your condition. They can even go for hysteroscopy. All of these conditions can be included in pelvic examination. Apart from that, there's something called as pap smear. If the doctor is suggesting you to go for hysterectomy, then they will be doing a pap smear to check if there is any cervical cancer. So if there is cervical cancer, they have to remove the cervix as well. So to do that, to evaluate that, we will be doing a pap smear. Apart from that, complete blood picture along with erythrocyte sedimentation rate, which is ESR, has to be performed to see how your blood levels are, how your HbA count is, and if there is any sort of infection that is lying in your body, we will be knowing by leukocytosis. And then also coagulation studies. See, while performing surgery, we have to cut the abdomen, right? So if there is any coagulation disorder, that is clotting disorder, then the blood will not clot in time and there can be profuse bleeding, which can lead to complete blood loss, or as we can say, there is some sort of blood loss in the body where we have to do a blood transfusion. So if you're having coagulation disorders, they will first treat you for it and then perform the surgery. Next, coming to urine analysis, which is also important while performing your electrocardiogram and also chest x-rays. These are normal tests to be done to see how your heart and your lungs, the primary organs, are doing, so that while doing the surgery, we do not have to worry about all of these things. Apart from doing those tests which are compulsory, there are certain tests your gynecologist will suggest if you want to do a hysterectomy. It depends upon the case. So for example, the first and foremost thing is pelvic USG, which has to be performed before hysterectomy. And if they want to know in detail, or if the pelvic USG is not proper, then they have to go for MRI or CT depending upon your condition. And also hysteroscopy can be performed, as we have already told. It is performed in the clinic itself, where an instrument called hysteroscope is inserted into your uterus, which has a camera and a light to see the inside of your uterus. This can be performed only under the discretion of a gynecologist. It depends upon the condition that you are suffering. So the next one, a test that is important, depending upon your condition, they can ask you for an endometrial biopsy. Apart from that, they can do a D-dimer test, which is, the tendency for blood clots. If you have a tendency for blood clots, then while performing surgery, blood clots can form and they usually will disintegrate if they are smaller in size. But if they are larger in size, it will take time to disintegrate. And if you are having some problem what will happen is these blood clots can travel along the body, which is called as embolus. They can get stuck in a capillary. Wherever it is getting stuck in the capillary, that whole organ can suffer. Because of lack of oxygen and nutrition, it can starve to death, and also it can become putrefied, which is it can become infectious. It can lead to a health threatening condition. Next, coming to other tests, depending upon your condition, the gynecologist can suggest other tests to evaluate you on a better scale. Now, as we are discussing about hysterectomy, we will be discussing about types of hysterectomy. Types of hysterectomy can be divided into two types. The primary one being based on the amount of tissue or the organ that is being removed. The second classification depends upon the type of surgical approach. Okay, we are discussing primarily about the first one. See, the first one will have four different types. In that, first one is total hysterectomy. What do you mean by total hysterectomy? As you can see here in the picture, the green part is the part that they are removing. In total hysterectomy, they will be removing the uterus along with the cervix. This is usually suggested for fibroids. So in total hysterectomy, you can see that the ovaries are intact. There is no salpingectomy, that is removal of fallopian tubes is not there. So fallopian tubes are present, ovaries are present, vagina is there, and cervix is not there, and uterus is not there. Only uterus and cervix are not there. The second type is called as subcervical or subtotal hysterectomy, where only the uterus is removed, the cervix is still intact along with other reproductive organs. And the third type is called as radical hysterectomy. It is usually not suggested in fibroids, because fibroids only total hysterectomy is suggested. But in radical type, what happens is that the whole thing, that is the whole reproductive organ, is removed along with it is taken care that if there are any cancer cells along the way, those are also removed. It is usually suggested in cancerous or malignant conditions. You have to remember, radical hysterectomy equals to cancerous conditions. Apart from that, there is a fourth one called as bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy along with total hysterectomy. That is total hysterectomy along with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy. It depends upon the condition. Usually, what do you mean by bilateral? That means two sides. Unilateral means single side. Removal of the fallopian tube is called as salpingectomy. Removal of the ovaries is called as oophorectomy. So, in total hysterectomy, you're going to remove the uterus along with the cervix, right? Cervix is removed, uterus is removed. Depending upon the condition, only one side of fallopian tube or ovaries can be removed, or two sides it can be removed. This is called as bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy. It is also done in cancerous conditions. Next, types depending upon the surgical approach. The first one being abdominal hysterectomy. So what do you mean by abdominal hysterectomy? Here in abdominal hysterectomy, what we'll be doing is we will be giving an incision in the abdomen itself. So incision in the abdomen and then removal of the uterus from the abdomen. This is called as abdominal hysterectomy. What is the second type of hysterectomy? That is vaginal hysterectomy. Whenever your fibroids are very large, then vaginal hysterectomy cannot be performed, but abdominal hysterectomy can be performed. So in vaginal hysterectomy, the whole uterus is taken out through the vagina, through the vaginal hole. So that is vaginal hysterectomy, usually done for submucosal fibroids which are moderate or very small in size. The next type being laparoscopic hysterectomy. That is, if you can see here in the picture, you will be seeing that a small puncture is made in the abdomen and then instruments are inserted and the uterus is removed, which is called as laparoscopic hysterectomy, which is an advanced treatment where a lot of tissue is not destroyed or there is not a lot of incision made, just a puncture made and the uterus is removed. The next kind is called as robotic assisted laparoscopic hysterectomy or robotic assisted hysterectomy, where the gynecologist through robotic hands will be operating your body and the uterus can be removed. These are the types of hysterectomy which can be performed. Now coming into the benefits which are related to hysterectomy, especially in relation to fibroids. The first and foremost one is, like, if you're removing the uterus itself, so it can be a permanent solution so that your fibroids will never occur again. Second thing, there is relief from the existing symptoms, there is improved quality of life, and there is no more period at all for you to suffer from fibroids. So these are some of the benefits of hysterectomy. So now let us discuss about the risks after performing the hysterectomy. So the risk can be divided into two parts. One is general surgical risk, that is risks that are occurring because of surgery. Second one, this risks that are occurring because of removal of the uterus, that is hysterectomy. The primary one that we are going to discuss is general surgical risk. Primary one is infection. So if you're someone who is undergoing a surgery, you might be knowing that the bacteria are all over in the air and on the body. No matter how much you sterilize it, you will still be finding them. So if you're prone to infections, if your blood count is not good, then they will be giving you, you will have a hard time recovering. And also after the surgery is performed, they will surely give you antibiotics so that you don't get infection. But antibiotics should be taken along with proton pump inhibitors so that you do not have gastritis symptoms. So antibiotics along with proton pump inhibitors, you will have problem in absorption and also problem where the gut bacteria is being destroyed. When the gut bacteria are destroyed, you can occur or land into gastrointestinal diseases. And also there is disruption. Whenever there is disruption in the gut bacteria, it can relate to your hormonal imbalance also. So hormonal imbalance not only has an effect on your female reproductive organs, it has an effect on the overall body. Whenever there is hormonal imbalance, especially whenever there is hysterectomy done, there can be risk for you to get an heart attack. Women are usually less prone, especially reproductive women are less prone for heart attacks. But after hysterectomy, you can be equal to a man after performing hysterectomy. That is something that you have to remember. And also if you're having any sort of bleeding disorders, or if you're having improper clotting, that can lead into a prolonged bleeding. And also if the surgery is not performed properly, it can lead into damage in surrounding tissues, which can lead into bleeding, which can lead into a lot of blood loss. And a lot of blood loss can cause the person to go into certain kind of conditions where they need blood transfusion again. So this is something that you have to remember. Apart from that, if the blood clots are not dissolved in the body, usually smaller blood clots are dissolved in the body, but if they are not dissolved properly because of your health condition, then that can cause embolism. Where they are traveling throughout the body, they can get stuck in the capillaries, and wherever they are getting stuck, that whole organ can become deficit of oxygen and nutrition and blood, leading into putrefaction, leading into infection, leading into removal of that organ. It can become heart attack, it can become brain stroke, leading into paralysis. And the fourth one being anesthesia complaints. If the anesthesia dosage is not proper, it can be very harmful for the body. And also anesthesia, if given in lumbar region, it can lead into, in a long term ratio, if you see, it can give you lumbar spondylosis, as frequent lumbar punctures, or if you are having hysterectomy done, your absorption capability of calcium will decrease, which can lead into osteoporosis, which can lead in turn into lumbar spondylosis, or even lumbar pain as such after lumbar puncture is usually seen. Damage to nerves and organs nearby, if the surgery is not performed properly, is also one of the risk factor. Apart from that, scarring. If you're someone who is prone to hypertrophic scars or keloids, then that can also be a risk factor for surgery. Now coming into the risk factors which are associated with removal of this uterus. The first and foremost one is, if there is removal of the uterus along with oophorectomy, that is removal of the ovaries also, you will have sudden menopausal symptoms or complete sudden menopausal symptoms, where you will be experiencing hot flushes, you will be experiencing hormonal changes, where you can get acne, you can have hair fall, you can become really obese after hysterectomy is done, and also you can be prone to heart diseases. Apart from that, your calcium absorbing capability can also decrease, leading into osteoporotic conditions, and even slight disorientation in walking, or a slight sprain can also be very harmful on you, where it can cause hairline fractures. So these are some of the disadvantages of getting hysterectomy. If you are getting it along with oophorectomy, then the symptoms will be all of a sudden, and it can raise, or it can prognosis really bad. The menopausal symptoms can be really bad in some people. But if it is only total hysterectomy, you will be suffering from all of this in a slower pace, but you will be suffering from all of these menopausal symptoms because the body is not ready for it. And second thing is infertility issue. Of course, if you are someone who doesn't want kids, only will go for hysterectomy, right? So infertility might not be an issue in hysterectomy, because people usually choose hysterectomy if they do not want to have any more children. Third one is vaginal problems. This is something that you have to take care of, because after hysterectomy, vagina tends to become very dry, and many people after hysterectomy find it hard to attain orgasm. So this is one of the problems. Apart from that, psychological effects. People who get their hysterectomy done do suffer from hormonal imbalance, which can relate to their abnormal mood swings. You become depressed, you're depressed suddenly, and then you're active suddenly, and then you feel like crying suddenly, you feel like shouting suddenly, you're very angry sometimes, you are very low sometimes, you feel lazy throughout the day, sleepy throughout the day, and at night you don't feel like sleeping, you have this insomnia condition developing. All of these conditions are some of the risk factors for hysterectomy. Apart from that, you might be suffering from long-term health issues, as I've already told you, lumbar spondylitis. It can be calcium absorption problems leading to osteoporosis and hairline fractures. It can be your sensitivity or increased risk for heart diseases. And also, if the blood clots are not dissolved, increased risk for heart attacks or strokes can be seen. Myofascial pain and also wound healing can be a problem after hysterectomy. So these are some of the risk factors associated. See, here we are only discussing about hysterectomy in relation to fibroids. Fibroids is not much big of a problem. It is treatable in nature, but in other forms of treatment, like in homeopathy. So if you want to, think about a treatment, we usually think about the pros and cons of the treatment, right? But here the benefits are very less, but the risk factors are really more. Then we should be opting for a treatment which will give us more benefits for this thing. So let us dive into the topic to know more about which treatment will give you the best option for treating fibroids. Now coming into the homeopathic form of treatment. As I've already discussed in hysterectomy for fibroids, fibroids is not a big issue. It's not a life-threatening condition. But if not taken care properly, it can have a bad prognosis. But here we are discussing about treatment option which is very safe, which is very effective. Unlike hysterectomy, where you're having all of these risk factors associated, in homeopathy you do not have any of these risk factors associated. It is utterly and completely safe to use. It does not have any side effects attached to it. It is non-invasive, that we are not going to perform any surgery on you, and also it will help in shrinking the fibroids. Secondary, it will help in balancing the hormones, which is very, very important, because a balance in the hormones can create harmony in the body where you will not be affected. Apart from fibroids, there are other diseases that you get from hormonal imbalance, right? So by taking homeopathy, the hormonal balance also can be attained, and also your irregular periods or your too much flow, menorrhagia or metorrhagia, can be decreased, and it can be turned into a normal period using homeopathic pills. Apart from that, there is no recurrence compared to allopathic form of treatment. If you're taking even UAE, if you're taking myomectomy, if you're taking hormonal pills, if you're taking ablation therapy, all of this, there will be recurrence in the symptoms. But in homeopathy, apart from being safe and apart from being, very effective, it does not have a higher amount of recurrence. The recurrence rate in homeopathy is very low compared to allopathic form of treatment. Here we treat you holistically, and here we are going to prevent further recurrences, treat your current disease, relieve you of your symptoms, and cure your disease. So opt for homeopathy if you are suffering from fibroids. So what happens if you neglect fibroids? Remember, although fibroids is not a life-threatening process, you have to remember that fibroids can have a bad prognosis. If they are not taken care enough, they can have the hormonal fluctuations can happen because of fibroids, and also hormonal fluctuations can create fibroids also. So the cycle, there can develop other diseases like endometriosis, adenomyosis, they can develop ovarian cysts, they can develop polycystic ovaries, they can develop severe dysmenorrhea. So the diseases can pair up also. And apart from that, the fibroid can grow larger in size, where you have to have a hysterectomy done or an abdominal incision done. And also, if you're not taking care of your fibroids, because of prolonged bleeding, you can have severe drop in your blood levels, which can lead into or go into a blood transfusion phase. So do not neglect your fibroid when you're having a treatment which is very effective in nature, like homeopathy. If you're someone who's suffering from fibroids or adenomyosis or endometriosis, dysmenorrhea, polycystic ovaries or ovarian cysts, or any female reproductive organ diseases, remember that Fideicus Homeopathy is the answer. Here we have two types of consultations. If you're someone who's staying very near the nearest branch of Fideicus, you can come and contact us in person and take doctor consultation. If you're someone who's staying very far away from us, you can take online consultation. In online consultation, we have audio consultation option as well as video consultation option here. And after the doctor consultation, if you need any sort of investigations, we will be asking you, and if you already have done the investigations, you can share it with us. After taking your case and after evaluating your investigations, especially for online clients, we will be delivering you our medicines to your doorstep. If you're staying in India, it can take 3 to 4 business days. If you're staying in USA, it can take 3 to 5 business days. Anywhere else across the globe, it can take 4 to 8 business days for our medicines to reach your doorstep. If you would like to get in touch with us, you can call us on this number, WhatsApp us, ping us a message. If you want to know more about Fideicus Homeopathy, you can check our website www.fideicus.com. If you're someone who's suffering from fibroids, endometriosis, adenomyosis, dysmenorrhea, ovarian cyst or polycystic ovaries, or any other female reproductive organ diseases like even infertility, why should you choose Fideicus Homeopathy? Fideicus Homeopathy stands for highest chance of health. Here we strictly follow 3 principles. First one is our highest success rate. We are having good success rate in already treating all of these female reproductive organ diseases. Second is a transparent treatment. There is no gray area between the patient and the doctor. Here we will be discussing you in detail about your prognosis. And the third one is personal care. Personal care here at Fideicus is top notch because we will be answering you and educating you on all your queries. If you want to choose health, if you want to choose cure for your diseases, choose Fideicus Homeopathy. Thank you.